Hey guys, I'm back again and I'm here to do my annual book club choice video. So I have the list of suggestions that my book club will be voting on in June. So this is how it works. If you don't know, I have a book club here in Normandy, and what we do is at the end of the school year, just before the end of the school year, we each put in 2 suggestions to go on a long list. And then in the last meeting of the school year, which is this year, it's going to be at the beginning of June, we then vote on 7 books. So the list that we have is extremely long. It's 29 books, but I'm going to try to make it as short as I possibly can. Bear with me. So let's get started. So the first book on the list, I'll be looking down on my iPad and a little bit here on my computer. The first book on the list is The Trick is to Keep Breathing by Janice Galloway. Now, I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of this book before, but it says here on Goodreads, Janice Galloway's inventive first novel is about the breakdown of a 27-year-old drama teacher named Joy Stone. The problems of everyday living accumulate and begin to torture Joy, who blames her problems not on her work or on the accidental drowning of her illicit lover, but on herself. While painful and deeply serious, this is a novel of great warmth and energy. Okay, I don't know. So we'll see. I don't know if anybody here that's watching this has actually read this book. If you have, comment below if you think I should think about voting for this one. But it sounds like it could be really interesting. Next on the list, we have Public Library and Other Stories by the famous Ali Smith. Now, I don't need to tell anybody on here about Ali Smith. You hear a lot about Ali Smith here on BookTube, so I'm not going to really say that much about it. It's a collection of short stories, and I haven't heard that many people review it. I think I've seen maybe 1 or 2 reviews here from people that I follow on BookTube, but you know, it's Ali Smith, and I have not read any Ali Smith at all, but I think I'm gonna have to change that and get something under my belt, hopefully before this book happens, if it winds up getting picked. But if you're an Ali Smith lover, tell me if I should vote for this one or if I should just skip it and, you know, read something else. Next on the list, News of the World, and that is by Paulette Giles. It says it's a historical fiction. It says in the aftermath of the Civil War, an aging itinerant newsreader agrees to transport a young captive of the Kiowa back to her people in this exquisitely rendered, morally complex, multi-layered novel of historical fiction from the author of Enemy Women that explores the boundaries of family, responsibility, honor, and trust. So, yeah, I don't know. It could be very good, and I think, you know, it was a National Book Critics Award novel from the picture that I see here. So, I don't know. It sounds pretty intriguing all the same. So, I don't know. The next book on the list is called To the Bright Edge of the World. Okay, and that is by Eowyn Ivey. Here again, it's another historical fiction. So it looks like a lot of historical fiction so far. This one says it's set again in the Alaskan landscape that she brought to stunningly vivid life in The Snow Child. Okay, Eowyn Ivey's second novel is a breathtaking story of discovery and adventure set at the end of the 19th century and of a marriage tested by a closely held secret. So everybody's heard of The Snow Child because there was a lot of reviews on The Snow Child, so I'm thinking, yeah, this one could be fairly interesting. I have not read The Snow Child, but this one sounds like it could be not a bad book to read. All right, the next book on the list is Into the Wild. Here again, another book that was very popular on BookTube a few years back. So it's been pretty much reviewed and talked about a lot here. If you don't know what it's about, it says in April 1992, a young man from a well-to-do family hitchhiked to Alaska and walked alone into the wilderness north of Mount McKinley. His name was Christopher Johnson McCandless. He had given $25,000 in savings to charity, abandoned his car and most of his possessions, burned all the cash in his wallet, and invented a new life for himself. 4 months later, a party of moose hunters found his decomposed body. How McCandless came to die is the unforgettable story of Into the Wild. Okay, frankly, I'm not really interested in reading this story. Not really my cup of tea. It is a nonfiction, a biography, adventure, travel. I'm not really that interested in it, but it is a book that I know that a lot of people had read and reviewed and said it was amazing here on BookTube. I'm just not personally invested in this particular kind of story. Next on the list, we have The Tattooist of Auschwitz. Now, this is another historical fiction. The Tattooist of Auschwitz is based on the true story of Lael and Jita Sokolov, two Slovakian Jews who survived Auschwitz and eventually made their home in Australia. In that terrible place, Lael was given the job of tattooing the prisoners marked for survival, literally scratching numbers into his fellow victims' arms in indelible ink to create what would become one of the most potent symbols of the Holocaust. So sounds like another very poignant novel, but here again, another historical fiction. I don't know, historical fiction, I mean, I like it, but I don't always love it sometimes, because I think sometimes there's too much fiction. There's not enough of each portion into the story. So there's not enough of the fiction and not enough of the nonfiction to make it a good historical fiction. But I don't know. I haven't heard anyone talk about this one. It's rated on Goodreads. It's 4.33 stars, and it has a little bit over 1,130 reviews. So I don't know. If you think I should, consider this one, drop me a line below, because I'm not really sure. Sounds like it could be very, very poignant and very, very interesting. Okay, next on the list we have Infidel by Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Now, this one, I had heard people talk about it when it came out. This came out like, I think it was around the early 2000s, maybe 2007. But it is the brutal murder of the Dutch filmmaker Theo van Gogh in 2004 shocked the world. Shot and mutilated by a Muslim fanatic as he cycled to work, it was a stark reminder of the dangers of challenging an extreme Islamic worldview. It also changed the life of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Van Gogh's collaborator on the film, that had offended the murderer. Born in Somalia and raised a Muslim, she had escaped an arranged marriage and made a new life as a Dutch parliamentarian, championing the reform of Islam and its attitude to women's rights. She now has 24-hour police protection, but refuses to let that inhibit her willingness to speak out. Okay. This sounds fantastic. I think you all must know a little bit about that story or remember hearing about it, especially if you're European or if you have been living in Europe. This, of course, is a nonfiction autobiography / memoir. So, yeah, why not? It sounds freaking awesome. But here again, it's another extremely poignant book. That's a lot of intensity going on this list so far, so I don't know. We'll see if it gets picked. All right, next on the list we have a classic, Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. I don't need to tell you what that's about. You kind of know, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Here's a picture of it, and I'm going to move on to the next book. The next book on the list is My Absolute Darling. And this book is by Gabrielle Talent. This came out, I think it came out last year, if I remember correctly, and it was everywhere online. I saw it everywhere. I saw it on BookTube, I saw it on Instagram, I saw it on Twitter, everywhere. It says Turtle Alviston is a survivor. At 14, she roams the woods along the northern California coast. The creeks, tide pools, and rocky islands are her haunts and her hiding grounds, and she is known to wander for miles. But while her physical world is expansive, her personal one is small and treacherous. Turtle has grown up isolated since the death of her mother in the thrall of her tortured and charismatic father, Martin. Her social existence is confined to the middle school, where she fends off the interest of anyone, student or teacher, who might penetrate her shell, and to her life with her father. Okay, so this is a contemporary fiction. Even some people have put young adult on Goodreads, but from what I understand, I'm not so sure it is content-wise. Personally, I'm not that interested in this one. It doesn't sound like something that I would really want to read, but it could possibly be chosen, so I need to prepare myself. Okay, next book on the list is Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows, and that is by Bali Kaur Jaswal. Okay, this one is a fiction, contemporary romance kind of novel, so that should lighten the mood of the first bit of this list. It says, Nikki lives in cosmopolitan West London, where she tends bar at the local pub. The daughter of Indian immigrants, she's spent most of her 20-odd years distancing herself from the traditional Sikh community of her childhood, preferring a more independent, that is, Western life. When her father's death leaves the family financially strapped, Nikki, a law school dropout, impulsively takes a job teaching a creative writing course at the community center in the beating heart of London's close-knit Punjabi community. Okay, so you can see this sounds like something that would be very interesting for us to discuss in a book club. I don't know this author, Bali Kaur Jaswal. She wrote a book called Inheritance. I don't know if you've heard of that before. And another book called Sugar Bread. So yeah, it sounds like it could be a nice read. It's not too long. It's about 320 pages. It could be a lighter read, although I'm sure it has some pretty serious issues in it, because we're talking about somebody who has a Punjabi background living in London, so it should have lots of racial issues and things to talk about, so it could be really good.